Hello, everyone. Welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday and Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure. All Bookmap Limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure. Trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Doug chat channel. You can post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation and the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. I'm also on X. My name there is @Pless. And I do have a quick announcement. This Blue Jacket, competition is going on this week. You can win prizes, including a free subscription for a period of time, 3 months, I believe, and also a blue jacket hoodie here. So more about that in just a minute. Here are the key tenets to my approach to trading. And for those of you who've seen my webinars before, please bear with me. I'll get through this as quickly as possible. I want to make sure everyone understands my approach to trading. It's a little bit different from many other people. So I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. That certainly applies to the large cap tech stocks like the Magnificent Seven stocks, as well as the equity index futures like the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index, SPY is the ETF version of that index, and the S futures contract is a derivative of SPX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their adult exposure with ES futures. And for the NASDAQ 100, NDX is the underlying index. QQQ is the much more liquid ETF version of that index. And the NQ futures contract is a derivative of NDX. And just like the S&P 500, when traders buy and sell puts and calls in NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their adult exposure with NQ futures. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading. The first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as a directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups. And when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset. Setups in that asset can be taken with futures contracts, shares of stock, or options, depending on the asset as well as the way you like to trade. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Hello, Amir. Welcome. Glad you're here. Here's my agenda for today, Monday, October 20th. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, events, and earnings. I need to change that. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll take a look at the live market. And when I get to the live market, if anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at, please let me know and I'll be glad to do that. All right, let's get started with news items. And while we're doing that, actually before I do that, let's take a quick look at this Bookmap Blue Jacket you can win a prize. What you need to do is mark up your Bookmap chart and post it on X, LinkedIn, or Instagram, or all three, with a hashtag #FreeBlueJacket for a chance to win 3 months of Global Plus and a Bookmap branded blue jacket. So there you go. Just post on one of those social media platforms for 3 months of Global Plus and a blue jacket. All right, let's move on. Let's take a look now at news and earnings. So, as you're all aware, the U.S. government is still shut down. That does limit the data that's released. However, the U.S. government has decided to release the CPI data on Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So the CPI data that was due last week will be reported this week on Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Also on Friday at 9:45 a.m. S&P PMI data comes out, and then at 10 a.m. Michigan consumer sentiment. And then on Wednesday, VIX expiration that could have an impact on the market. And I think the main driver of price this week will be earnings. And there are a couple of key earnings reports that I will be watching, and I'll point those out. So first of all, on Tuesday, Netflix will report earnings after the market closes. So that's Netflix. And then on Wednesday, Tesla reports earnings after the market closes. And not many people may follow the stock, VRT, but it's been very strong stock. And that reports earnings before the market opens on Wednesday. And then Intel reports earnings after the close on Thursday. And this earnings chart here, this is from Thinkorswim. This is, from Spotgamma. This is a Spotgamma earnings chart on the dashboard home screen. And this is showing implied volatility on the vertical axis with the earnings date on the horizontal axis. Interesting that the expected move for Intel in percentage terms is higher than Tesla. So let's just take a look at that. So the expected move for Intel on Thursday afternoon is plus or minus 10.3%, and for Tesla, plus or minus 6.71%, and about the same for Netflix at 6.73%. So that's the expected move for those stocks that I'll be watching. All right, again, that is the earnings chart that's available on the Spotgamma dashboard home screen. All right, so that's what's going on this week. All right, so let's move on now to positional analysis. Let's start with the S&P 500. This is the ES Futures and Bookmap. Very interesting trade today. We'll go over this in much more detail. And I do want to focus on the levels in play. So before taking a closer look at this chart, let's step back, take a look at a higher time frame. I'm going to go to the SPX, the underlying index. This is a 1 year, 1 day chart. And of course, everybody's familiar with the big rally that began beginning of April. More recent price action. A little bit of a pullback end of August. September rally up to September expiration. A little bit of a pullback, then rally continued until Friday, week before last. And a little bit of a tariff tantrum. And now SPX continues to recover from that. So let's take a look now at a shorter time frame. Let's go to a 30-day, 1 hour chart. So there's the pullback after the September expiration. That's shown by that red vertical line there. That may be very difficult to see. And then, so the pullback, and then a rally up to around 67. Looks like the high was 67.64, but generally at the 67.50 level, and that is where SPX is heading now. So far, SPX remains within the range of the big drop Friday before last. And it may not be long before SPX breaks out above that level and above that level of resistance. All right, let's take a look at the levels on this chart. I'm going to start with the expected moves. These are the weekly expected moves shown by the dashed purple lines. This is based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from last Friday. Those levels remain in place for the entire week. And then the dashed blue lines are showing the lower and upper daily expected move, also based on the options market, again based on the closing price for SPX from Friday. And those levels change every day. And I do post the expected moves for SPX, ES, and NQ every day the day before in the Options-Doug chat channel in the Bookmap Discord. All right, so SPX is trading up above the upper daily expected move today, in a rally that really began last Friday with support right around 6,600. So that's shown here. Whoops. Support around 6,600 on Friday. And that was actually also on Thursday afternoon. We'll take a closer look at that in just a minute. All right, so let's take a look now at the Spotgamma levels. These are based on gamma-weighted open interest that are provided to Spotgamma subscribers, available on a variety of trading platforms. Again, this is Thinkorswim, 30-day, 1-hour chart. And I'm going to point out the key daily levels. Normally, I would zoom in, but the absolute gamma strike has moved back down to 6,000 now. So that's the 6,000 absolute gamma strike. That's the strike with the largest absolute positive and negative gamma. And that was a pretty substantial drop from Friday, down from 6,700. Next level up is the put wall at 6,500. That's the strike with the largest net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. Next is the volatility trigger at 6,680. That is Spotgamma's proprietary volatility and gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure. That tends to enhance or increase volatility. Above that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive. In a positive gamma environment, market makers have to trade against price to hedge their delta exposure. That tends to subdue or decrease volatility. Note that is based on Spotgamma's older total open interest model. And we'll take a look at a current view of gamma based on their newer synthetic open interest model. And the volatility trigger did move higher slightly from Friday. So absolute gamma strike lower and volatility trigger higher. And then the call wall remains in place at 7,000. That's the strike with largest absolute positive gamma, net positive gamma, and that can be expected to act as resistance. All right, so that's the landscape as far as the key daily levels, 6,000 to 7,000, so spread out pretty well. All right, let's wrap up our review of SPX with a 1-minute chart. And this shows the price action for last week. Dark shaded portions are regular trading hours. And you can see last week was very choppy. And then this current rally began on Thursday afternoon with a test of the 6,600 level. All right, and then today, again, SPX trading up above the upper daily expected move right there. also above this key 6,700 level. And this has been Spotgamma's bearish, bullish line in the sand, 6,700. So now Spotgamma is looking at this as bullish. All right, so again, rally began Thursday afternoon, continues. All right, back to Bookmap now. Actually, let's take a quick look at SPY, the other underlying index component. Let's zoom in on this so you can see the SPY rally began overnight. This is showing price action from Thursday, dark shaded area, here Friday, and then dark shaded portion on the right is price action today. So let's zoom in on that. All right, so this is the SPY absolute gamma strike at 670, and SPY is trading up above that level. All right, back to Bookmap now. So I've talked about SPX levels, SPY levels, and I have them all on my Bookmap chart. So here's that key SPX 6700 level, and then also the SPY 670 level, and there's the ES upper daily expected to move, and note the resistance around that level, and we'll see more of a cause for that in just a couple of minutes. And note there is a difference in price between ES and SPX, and today it is right around 38 points. So I'm showing SPX 6700 at ES 6738. And then the positive gamma that we'll look at in just a minute, that's at SPX 6740, is at ES 6778. We'll take a look at that on the trace gamma heat map in just a minute. All right, so that's the landscape. Nice rally today. That really began pre-market and continues with some consolidation or again around the upper daily expected move, and then the positive gamma that we'll take a look at in just a minute. All right, so that's the S&P 500, and now SPX 6750 and a combo level just above that. Next targets in sight. All right, and I forgot to mention for SPY, all four key daily levels shifted higher. So that's very bullish when all four key daily levels shift higher. So again, that's for SPY, very bullish. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ. Go to the NQ Futures and Bookmap. We'll talk about setups in just a couple of minutes. I'm focusing on the levels in play for today right now. And so here's NASDAQ. And let's take a look at the underlying index charts first so we can isolate the levels in play for the underlying index components. So that is QQQ. So let's zoom in and note the rally that began. And again, this was overnight, Thursday evening, early Friday, from 590. That's the put wall, up to and above the 610 call wall. So a huge rally. Let's zoom in on this just a little bit. Note the 610 call wall is the highest spot gamma level for QQQ. And QQQ is trading about 3 points above that level. All right, that's QQQ. Let's take a look at NDX, the other underlying index component. And also trading higher today. And this is the next to highest spot gamma level. And there's one up about, I think maybe 200 or 300 points higher from here. So most of the levels, like the call wall, are well down below, not in play. All right, so that's NDX. Back to Bookmap. All right, so Bookmap, again, I have the underlying index level shown on this chart. So there's the 610 call wall. And this looks like the, you can't see it here on the screen, but this light blue line just under 25,300, that is the upper daily expected move for NQ at 25,299.5. So just right under, that's NQ 25,000. Again, 299.5, just under 25,300. That's the upper daily expected move. So just like ES, NQ moved up to around that level, chopped around, and is now after lunch trying to continue to move higher. All right, so that's NASDAQ. Again, we'll take a look at setups in just a couple of minutes. And for NDX, the volatility trigger and call wall shifted higher. And for QQQ, the volatility trigger and absolute gamma strike shifted higher. And again, we'll take a look at setups in just a minute. And hello, Julian. Welcome. Glad you're here. Julian says, greetings from Wake Forest, North Carolina. I'm in North Carolina also. And what connection service do you use with Bookmap? All right, so, and I assume you're meeting what data that I use. And for futures, I use Bookmap data. And for stocks, I use DXFeed. Those are the two that I've used for quite a while and recommend. All right, let's take a look at Gamma, and then we'll wrap up positional analysis. Then we'll take a look at some setups and then the live market. All right, so let's go to Trace. This is Spotgamma's Trace Gamma heat map. So the levels that we've looked at so far are based on open interest. They're updated once a day. So they're really static data during the day, although they are changing. That data is not available until sometime overnight. Now, Trace is updated every 10 minutes. So this is showing a current picture of Gamma that's updated every 10 minutes. And this is that 6740 strike that I talked about. And now, again, this is the Gamma heat map. So the blue shading is showing positive Gamma, and the red shading showing negative Gamma. So remember, in positive Gamma, we're looking for slower movement, and then lower volatility, and then a red shading, negative Gamma, we're looking for faster movement, higher volatility. All right, so let's step back in time, and remember the 6740 level. That is a 99 percentile Gamma strike. So let's step back in time. Let's go back to, so here's the open, cash open at 9:30. Step forward 10 minutes, and there's that 6740 strike. So 10 minutes into the trading today, the regular trading hours, that was the target. And that was the setup for the S&P 500. And note that level remains in place. Hero signal shown on this chart, right here with the purple line, moving higher, price moving higher. And traders taking price right into that level where it stalls for quite some time. Then started to break above. Right around 1 o'clock or so. But still in positive Gamma, and also that Gamma remains quite strong. And of course, Gamma is greatest at the money at expiration. All right, so that was the trade in the S&P 500, and right now, SPX remains in that positive gamma zone just above the 67.40, and again that would be about 67.38 and 78 in ES. All right, so let's take a look now at more details on that setup. And as always, we're starting with the S&P 500. We're starting by taking a look at what options traders have been doing today. This is the hero signal. And I'm going to have to go back. This is, we'll give this just a minute. It seems to take some time to update. This is the new hero upgrade. I'm going to go back. So that was the new hero upgrade that shows, uses the trading view engine much more extensively than the current hero signal. And I think Spotgamma is in the process of rolling out that to all their subscribers. All right, so I'm going to go back to the older line version just for this presentation. All right, so let's what this chart is showing. This is the hero signal, hedging impact real-time options. This is available to Spotgamma subscribers, so we've moved from static data to data that's updated every 10 minutes to real-time data now. So what this chart is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for the S&P 500 index components, two of which we've already talked about, SPX and SPY. The other two on this chart are ES and XSP. So the white line is price for SPX, and the purple signal is the purple line is the hero signal. That's showing options trades and market maker hedging activity, again for those S&P 500 index components. And a rising hero signal indicates traders are taking positive delta options positions. They're buying calls and or selling puts. Market makers take the opposite side of those trades, and they have to buy ES futures to hedge their delta exposure. So you can see a morning move higher up to that 67.40 level, and quite a period of consolidation right around 2 hours, and then traders started taking positive delta positions again and price move higher. One thing interesting to note today, so this is showing the purple signal showing calls and puts, all trades, that's all expirations, and we can turn on the signal for 0 GTE. So these are options. This next expiry, and for the S&P 500, this is options that expire today. And note the vast majority of the options trading today in the S&P 500 index components is options that expire today, the 0 GTE options. All right, so this is, and by the way, we can separate out puts and calls. So I'm going to have to jump back to avoid the auto zoom. So in the S&P 500 index components, traders today are and were selling puts, that's shown by the rising blue line, and buying calls, shown by the rising orange line, and driving price higher. And note again, they're selling puts, and right now VIX is down almost 11%. So that is a tailwind for the S&P 500 to move higher. So traders buying calls, selling puts, and then the price target again was that large positive gamma GEX bar at 67.40, and then that's where price stalled. That was also around the ES upper daily expected move. All right, so let's go take a look at Bookmap. So the S&P 500, let's zoom in on this. So just at the cash open, 9:30, you can see all the aggressive buyers come in. That's shown by the green volume dots. The volume dots in Bookmap show market buy minus sell. Green volume dots indicate more buyers than sellers. Aggressive buyers come in. The dark blue line here is cumulative volume delta, and you can see that rising. So we have aggressive buyers, traders taking positive delta options positions, put sellers and call buyers, in the S&P 500 index. Also the yellow line showing buy stop orders fueling that move higher. And of note, large traders are fading that move with iceberg orders they use to hide their size. So that might have slowed down ES a little bit, but the call buyers, put sellers, and the aggressive buyers, buy stop orders all drove price higher up to around that positive gamma bar at 67.40, a little bit short of that. So let's go back to Hero 1. There's another signal that we can take a look at for the S&P 500, and that is the S&P 500 equity signal. So this is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 index. And this is showing traders have been aggressively buying calls in the S&P 500 index components. And that really started to take off right around 9:50. And that flow alert comes in right at that time, signaling significant options activity. So call buyers really driving price in the S&P 500. And we'll take a look at some S&P 500 stocks in just a couple of minutes. All right, so that's the S&P 500. Go back to Bookmap. Go back to real time now. So again, around 1 o'clock, S&P 500 now breaking up above that level and trading just above that 67.40 large gamma strike, large GEX bar. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ, then we'll get to some stocks. Strong day in NASDAQ, similar to the S&P 500. Aggressive buyers coming in at the open. Rising cumulative volume delta. Buy stop orders fueling the move higher. And just like ES, large traders fading that move with the iceberg orders. So far not getting their way. And very nice rally in NQ today. So let's take a look and see what options traders have been doing. So we'll go to the NASDAQ index signal. So this is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for the NASDAQ index components that we've talked about, QQQ and NDX. So this is showing that traders are buying calls and selling puts. Puts shown with the blue line, orange line shows calls. Directional line indicates options delta. Rising lines, traders taking positive delta options positions. Market makers take the opposite side of those trades, and they have to hedge their delta exposure by buying NQ futures. So that's the NASDAQ index signal. And there's another signal that we can take a look at for the NASDAQ. That's this MAG 7 signal. That's showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for the stocks known as the Magnificent Seven: Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla. Those stocks make up a very large component of the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500. And this is very similar to the S&P 500 equity signal, which is really the MAG 7 plus 493, showing call buyers driving price higher in the MAG 7 stocks. And we'll take a look at some of those stocks in just a couple of minutes. All right, so that's NASDAQ. And again, NASDAQ also trying to break higher, starting around 12:45, 1 o'clock, something like that, break out of that range. All right, any questions about the indexes? All right, let's take a look at some stocks. And I do like to focus on the large cap tech stocks. That's what I like to trade. There are many other stocks in play, but these are the stocks that I like to watch. And several stocks that we'll take a look at today have been in the news. First, Apple. And apparently there's been positive news about the iPhone 17 sales in China and elsewhere. So let's see what options traders have been doing in Apple. And again, Apple is a very large component, one of the largest stocks in both the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. I think maybe second only to NVIDIA. All right, let's see what options traders have been doing. So we'll go to Hero here, go to Apple, and you can see call buyers driving price higher. So let's zoom in on this. Point out a couple of key things here. First of all, this flow alert comes in just after the open. Signals significant options activity. Get your attention right after the open. And when a flow alert comes in, this early in the morning, I'm looking for continuation, not a reversal, but continuation. So call buyers for a few minutes, take the foot off the gas, then about 9:50 start coming in again, foot off the gas, then right around 10:20, 10:30, they really start to aggressively buy calls, and Apple breaks above its call wall at 260. So that price did stall below that level for quite a while and then broke above that level. So that was a call wall breach. And this is a very typical pattern when you take a look at the entire picture of the day. Bullish opening drive, and the bullish opening drive in some stocks can be much more aggressive, can maybe last for 15 or 30 minutes, but this was a longer grind up, slower bullish opening drive up to about 11 o'clock. Call line starts to flatten out, and then finally the call buyers take the foot off the gas and price is consolidating. So bullish opening drive starts to slow down, 11:45. Call buyers take the foot off the gas and Apple consolidates. So let's go back to Bookmap. All right, so there's that quick move up, then consolidation, and then the break above. There's the break above the call wall right there as the call buyers start to get more aggressive. And then they take the foot off the gas right around 11:45, and Apple's consolidating. And note if you got in right at the open, this was definitely a primary target, that 260 call wall. Note all the high liquidity at that level. Those are limit sell orders in the order book. And more limit sell orders, price targets at 61, 62, 64. So those limit sell orders, the heat map of Bookmap shows a history of the limit orders in the order book. It's a very nice bullish setup in Apple. And again, Apple in the news this morning, positive news about the iPhone sales. All right, let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon, Amir asked, how often do I update the Bookmap ES levels? I update the levels once a day. I do that in the morning. Those remain in place for the entire day. So I do that once. That's part of my market prep. All right, let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon also in the news, and that's the reason I'm looking at Amazon. Otherwise, not really much of a setup. But most people may be aware that Amazon had an outage with the Amazon Web Services, AWS, overnight. And I think most of that, that has an impact on what I use is working okay now. But not bothering traders very much. Let's see what options traders have been doing in Amazon. So the Amazon call buyers were in this morning. So brief kind of a small bullish opening drive for about the first hour. Call buyers take the foot off the gas. Amazon consolidates. Then they came back in again just after 1. And Amazon starting to move higher again. All right, so that's Amazon. Let's take a look at AMD. AMD has been very strong recently after the news with OpenAI came out recently. So a little bit of a slow start to the morning. And it looks like the call buyers were actually playing catch up here. So price was moving first, then the call buyers playing catch up. And then now AMD consolidating as the call buyers have taken the foot off the gas. Traders are also selling puts today. And that was helping to drive price higher earlier today. So let's take a look at Bookmap. Go to AMD. So AMD reversed right around 9:45. Green volume dots, aggressive buyers started to come in. And then the call buyers looks like they played catch up, but that really doesn't matter as long as traders buy calls. Market makers sell the calls, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. So not a direct driver. But in this case of AMD, there were aggressive buyers shown by the rising cumulative volume delta, all the green volume dots. And now Amazon is consolidating as looks like cumulative volume delta has started flatten, and their call buyers have also taken their foot off the gas. All right, next stock, Tesla. Oh, next stock I want to take a look at is Meta, actually. So very bullish day in Meta today. A lot of aggressive buyers shown by the green volume dots, rising cumulative volume delta. Let's see what options traders are doing. Let's go back to Hero. Take a look at Meta. Again, it took the options traders a little while to get going, but the call buyers came in maybe around 9:40. Amazon moves higher. Meta moves higher. Also put sellers shown by the rising blue line. So another bullish setup in Meta. Back to Bookmap. Again, aggressive buyers shown by the green volume dots. And as the options traders have taken the foot off gas and the cumulative volume delta has leveled out, Meta consolidating now, it's starting to trying to move higher to the next level of liquidity, next high liquidity at 735. So that's the next primary target up above. Let's go back to Hero. By the way, this is an institutional block order here. Selling calls and buying puts. Buying calls and selling puts, sorry. So they're actually selling a risk reversal there. Buying calls, selling puts. Looks like the call buyers are back in now. All right, so that's Meta. Next stock, Tesla. Choppy day in Tesla. Let's zoom in. So bullish at the open. Call buyers coming in, choppy, but with a bullish bias. Flow alert comes in. And in this case, this flow alert is signaling a potential reversal in hedging flow from positive delta to negative delta. That took a while. Call buyers take the slow down. Then they start selling calls right around 10:10. Price reverse lower. So this is kind of a rounded top there. And Tesla reverse lower as the call buyers gradually shifted to call sellers. So let's go take a look at Bookmap. So pretty choppy action in Tesla today. Let's zoom in on about the first 90 minutes. So there's that chop with a mildly bullish tint. Price takes off. Then that rounded top is as call sellers gradually shifted to call buyers shifted to call sellers. All right, so definitely not the best stock to trade today, but kind of an interesting topping pattern there. All right, next stock, last stock I wanted to take a look at is Robinhood, and note that Bitcoin is trading quite a bit higher today, up right around 3.5%, and I think that may be driving Robinhood today. So let's take a look and see what options traders have been doing in Robinhood. So nice bullish opening drive. Traders buying calls. Market makers sell the calls. They have to buy stock. And there's your price target at 140. Very nice setup in Robinhood today. I think probably, along with Apple, the best setup today. In stocks, and then I thought ES was a great setup also with that 6740 SPX price target. Very clear from 10 minutes after the open. All right, so nice bullish setup in Robinhood today. Call buyers driving price higher up to the 140 call wall. So let's go to Bookmap, take a look at that. Let's take a look at something else here in Bookmap. This is the Market Pulse price change indicator. And I like to use this to help identify the deeper pullbacks if I want to enter a trend. Take a moment for that to load. So you can see, like the other stocks today, cumulative volume delta rising, a lot of aggressive buyers. All right, Market Pulse a little bit noisy today. But helping to identify this first deep pullback just above VWAP. Then another long entry. And again, a price target, very clear price target at 140 at the call wall there. And then intermediate price targets just below 136 and 137. And it looks like all those limit sell orders were consumed. All right, it's a very nice long setup in Robinhood today. as Bitcoiners rallying. All right, any questions? Does anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? Let me check on something. All right, so it looks like I'm looking at a watch list here. So some of the stocks that have been very strong recently, like the quantum computing stocks, are all trading down pretty substantially today. That's D-Wave Computing, Rigetti, IonQ, quantum computing, all down anywhere from 7 to 13%. So a lot of the speculative quantum computing stocks down pretty substantially today. That looks like the case for nuclear stocks as well. Looks like some fintech stocks up today, and of course the stocks that I mentioned. All right, back to ES. Still grinding higher. Let's take a look at Trace and Hero. I'm going to shift to the total signal here. Let's go back to the S&P 500. All right, so the S&P 500 index signal just chopping up and down around now. All right, but the equity signal continues to move higher. Let's take a look at Trace. All right, so that's 67.40. Gex bar remains in place. And the gamma at that level just continues to grow. You can see 10 minutes ago, 171 million, 30 minutes ago, 147 million, and then 60 minutes, 151 million. Let's zoom in on this just a little bit. And it looks like some negative gamma developing just above here. Let's take a look at, that is, sorry, I was looking at Charm. All right, so that's the 67.40 level again, positive gamma. So positive gamma up above, negative gamma down below. Let's take a look at delta pressure. All right, so that shows red selling pressure up above and blue buying support below, and that is typical of a positive gamma environment. All right, back to gamma. So again, blue positive gamma up above. All right, questions, comments? Again, anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? All right, back to Hero. Equities Hero signal continues to move higher. S&P 500 Hero signal chopping up and down. Back to Bookmap. And let's check NASDAQ. So the move this morning was regular trading hours, 9:30 to right around 11 o'clock, chop from 11 to 1, and then a little bit of movement after 1, and then now NASDAQ stuck down, just down below the 25,350 level. So since about 8:30, that has been a 250-point move in NASDAQ. Back to ES. Still grinding higher. Positive gamma. And sorry, this Chrome is frozen here. Let me try that again. All right, there we go, trace. Positive gamma. Gamma at 67.40, just increasing. Let's go back and check charm. So this looks like the potential pin target. This is showing at 67.30, but it would be 67.40. Blue buying support below, red selling pressure up above. All right, let's see how some of the stocks that we've taken a look at, let's see how they're doing. Back to Apple. Still consolidating. Amazon. Consolidating. Actually moving a little bit higher now. Meta continues to grind higher. 735, high liquidity. Target up above. If it can, Meta can make it through 734. See how Nvidia is doing today. Choppy day in Nvidia, slightly bullish. Tesla, a very choppy day. AMD. Still consolidating. And Robinhood now trading down a little bit lower. Definitely resistance at that 140 level. Let's go check Hero. Robinhood. Shift to puts and calls. I might have to jump. Jump back. So Robinhood now moving lower as the call buyers took the foot off the gas at the 140 call wall. Looks like that would have been a good short. So ways to play this: get long during this extended opening drive. Bullish move up to the level, the target resistance level at the 140 call wall, and then you could sell a call spread or buy a put spread there. And of course, take your profits for a long. All right, S&P 500 again. The move was in the first 90 minutes if you trade regular trading hours, and then just chop after that, consolidation. All right, remember coming up this week, Netflix reports earnings after the market closes tomorrow, and then Tesla reports earnings after the market closes on Wednesday, and we'll certainly talk about that on Wednesday. We'll see what options traders are doing in Tesla. And then, of course, the VIX expiration on Wednesday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And Amir, you're welcome. Amir asks, what is AGS? That's the absolute gamma strike. So the term for this strike with largest absolute positive negative gamma in an index, Spotgamma calls that an absolute gamma strike. And then it's the same thing in a stock. It's called the key gamma strike. And Amir, looks like you may want to look at SPY. I don't have SPY in Bookmap. If I'm trading any form of the S&P 500, this is the chart that I look at, ES. Whether I'm trading ES futures or SPX options or SPY options or SPY shares, this is the chart that I look at. And I have all the levels for those instruments on this chart. And the most information by far is on the ES chart. So that's the chart that I look at. And then as far as the hero signal goes, I don't look at SPY individually. Let me shift back to total. I look at the combined signals of the S&P 500, which combines SPY, SPX, ES, and XSP, and then also the S&P 500 equity signal. So I look at the combined signals for the S&P 500. All right, everyone, my time is up. I want to thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. And I will see you on Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks again for watching. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.